The sun rose slowly over Rome, casting golden light across a city that thrived on power, conquest, and spectacle. But no place embodied the soul of the empire more than the Colosseum, the grand arena where life and death danced before thousands of cheering voices. From the outside, it looked like a masterpiece of human ambition. Massive stone arches towered high, flags fluttered in the wind, and crowds gathered long before the gates even opened. But inside was a different world. A world where mercy was rare, and survival was everything. Deep beneath the arena floor, hidden from the sunlight, a young gladiator named Marcus sat in silence. Chains clinked softly as he adjusted his grip on a worn-out sword. His hands trembled, not from weakness, but from the weight of what awaited him above. Marcus wasn't born a warrior. He had once been a farmer's son, living a simple life far from Rome's chaos. But war changed everything. Captured, enslaved, and trained to fight, he had become part of the empire's cruel entertainment. A loud horn echoed through the underground chambers. It was time. Guards marched through the corridors, unlocking gates and shouting orders. The ground above shook as thousands of spectators filled their seats. The air vibrated with anticipation. For them, today was not about fear, it was about excitement, about witnessing glory, or death. Marcus stood up slowly. Around him, other fighters prepared in their own ways. Some whispered prayers. Others stared blankly at the ground, already accepting their fate. First time, a voice asked. Marcus turned to see an older gladiator, his face covered in scars. Marcus nodded. The man gave a faint smile. Then listen carefully, don't fight for the crowd. Fight to breathe one more second. Before Marcus could respond, the heavy gates began to open. Blinding sunlight poured in. The roar hit him like a wave. As he stepped into the arena, the world exploded into sound. Tens of thousands of people screamed, cheered, and demanded blood. The sand beneath his feet felt hot, almost alive, as if it remembered every drop of blood it had absorbed. Across the arena stood his opponent, a towering warrior clad in heavy armor, holding a trident and net. The crowd roared louder, sensing the imbalance. This wasn't meant to be a fair fight. It never was. Marcus swallowed hard. The signal was given. The fight began. The armored gladiator charged forward, swinging his net with terrifying force. Marcus barely dodged, rolling across the sand as dust filled the air. The crowd gasped, then cheered even louder. Every movement mattered. Every second could be his last. Marcus remembered the old man's words. Fight to breathe. He stayed light on his feet, avoiding direct attacks. The opponent grew frustrated, his strikes becoming more aggressive, less controlled. The crowd's excitement turned into hunger, they wanted a decisive moment. A mistake. That's all Marcus needed. As the armored gladiator lunged again, Marcus moved swiftly, slipping to the side and striking with precision. The blade cut through exposed flesh. The giant stumbled. The crowd fell silent for a split second. Then erupted. Marcus stood frozen, his chest rising and falling rapidly. His opponent collapsed into the sand, defeated but not yet dead. All eyes turned to the emperor's seat. This was the moment that decided everything. Life, or death. The emperor raised his hand slowly. The crowd began chanting, their voices merging into a single thunderous demand. Some wanted mercy. Others wanted blood. Marcus felt time slow down. Then. The thumb turned downward. The crowd roared in approval. Marcus's heart sank. This was the reality of the Colosseum. Victory didn't mean survival. It only meant you were strong enough to kill. With shaking hands, Marcus stepped forward. He looked into the eyes of his fallen opponent, eyes filled not with anger, but with understanding. In that moment, Marcus realized something terrifying. The arena didn't just kill bodies. It killed humanity. He closed his eyes, and struck. The crowd exploded into cheers. And Marcus became part of the very thing he feared. Days passed, but the noise of the arena never left Marcus's mind. Even in the silence of the underground cells, he could still hear the roar of the crowd, the clash of steel, and the final breath of the man he had killed. He had survived. But at what cost? The other gladiators looked at him differently now. Some with respect, others with envy. Survival in the Colosseum earned you a name, and a target. Marcus sat in the corner, staring at his hands. They were no longer the hands of a farmer. They were weapons now. "You're thinking too much," the scarred gladiator said, sitting beside him again. Marcus sighed. "Does it ever get easier?" The man chuckled softly. "No. You just stop asking that question." Another horn echoed. Another fight. Another chance to live, or die. But this time, something felt different. As Marcus stepped into the arena again, the crowd greeted him with cheers. They remembered him. He wasn't just another fighter anymore. He was becoming a story. And stories needed drama. The gates opened once more. But instead of a single opponent, two figures emerged. The crowd roared louder than ever. This wasn't a fight. This was a spectacle. Marcus tightened his grip on his sword. His mind raced. Two opponents meant less chance of survival. But it also meant something else. The Empire wanted a show. And Marcus was the main act. The fight began instantly. One attacker rushed from the front, while the other circled behind. Marcus moved quickly, barely escaping a deadly strike. Sand flew into the air as he spun, blocking and countering with everything he had. The crowd was on its feet. Every move, every strike, every near-death moment fueled their excitement. Marcus fought not just with skill, but with instinct. He adapted, improvised, and pushed his limits beyond what he thought was possible. Time blurred. Pain became irrelevant. All that mattered was survival. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, one opponent fell. Then the other. Marcus stood alone in the arena, his body bruised and bleeding, but still standing. The Colosseum erupted. This was what they wanted. A hero. A survivor. A legend. Marcus looked up at the Emperor once again. The decision was coming. But this time, something changed inside him. He didn't feel fear. He felt defiance. Because he finally understood the truth. The Colosseum only had power if you accepted its rules. The Emperor raised his hand. The crowd held its breath. Then the thumb turned upward. Marcus had earned mercy. For now. The gates opened, and he was led back underground. But as he walked through the dark corridors, something burned inside him. Hope. Not the kind that promised freedom. But the kind that refused to surrender. Because Marcus knew, the real battle wasn't in the arena. It was against the system that turned men into monsters. And one day, he would break it. Fire. If you enjoyed this intense story of survival, power, and the dark truth behind Rome's greatest arena, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more cinematic stories that bring history to life.